The Hourglass Veil Hydrating Skin Tint. Is it for us mature women touching 70? Let's find out. So why did I want to test out this new tint by Hourglass? Well, one of the reasons was that I bought the Hourglass Ambient Soft Glow Foundation, this one here, last summer, and I've got a review of that which I can link down below for you. And it's the only foundation that any one of my friends or family have actually commented on how good it looked on my skin. So it's definitely been in my top 3, let's say, foundations over the last year. And also, I like the idea of a skin tint, and the only skin tint, or the thing that calls itself a skin tint, I think it does anyway, that I own is the Wet n Wild, which is this one here. I think it actually calls itself a tinted hydrator, but it's much of a muchness really, isn't it? And I like the idea of it because it's the summer, although you wouldn't necessarily think so at the moment in the UK. And that means we don't really want to wear any heavy foundations or any face, I can't speak. Or we don't want to wear any heavy foundations. We want light makeup on the whole, I would say, in the summer. So I thought it would be good to try it. Now it is very expensive. It's £49, I think $49 in the US. But it is partly YouTube made me buy it. And of course I watched my favourite YouTubers reviewing it, and I'll link their channels down below for you, or their reviews. So I looked at Charlotte Holdcroft, who of course is about half my age, although a Brit. I looked at Tamara, who's closer to my age, and her review. And I also looked at Michelle Wong's review, who is kind of, I think she's just coming up to 50 now. A good range of YouTubers from different ages and what their thoughts were on the product. So I'm going to be doing a wear test. I literally did the wear test yesterday, so it's still very early days, but I thought it would be fun to give it a go. And also I was able to pop into a store yesterday and actually find a shade to suit. So without further ado, let's crack on. So it comes in a tube, and you're supposed to shake the tube and then apply it. And that's quite good. I think a tube is good because it makes you feel like it's a light product, doesn't it, if it comes in a tube rather than being in a bottle. But the interesting thing is that all the YouTubers I watched all said they preferred to apply it with a brush, which is kind of counterintuitive for me, because I would rather, or at least I expected to, be able to use my fingers or a sponge, because somehow that seems more appropriate for a light coverage product. However, I did try it, as you'll see in a moment, with my fingers, and it didn't work at all. So you definitely do have to apply it with a brush, or at least that's my experience, and you might want to then just check it with a sponge. It's a nice solid tube. It looks very attractive, although Charlotte said that she found after a few uses it started to get a bit grubby because it's white, and you can see already actually because of the top, the product is kind of dripping down onto the top, but we're not worried about that. It does feel nice and solid anyway, as it should for £49. So let me run the footage and I'll talk you through how I got on with it yesterday. So I'm in the shade 7 Light Medium with warm undertones, and that's close to what I am in the Ambient Soft Glow Foundation, and I'm in 7.5, which is a light medium with neutral undertones. Now, some of the creators have mentioned that there are only 2 neutrals, I think, one light and one dark, and I find that I do fluctuate a bit with my tones anyways, and I'm happy with the shade that I was matched to when I went into the store. So the blurb says it's a lightweight skin tint that instantly boosts skin's moisture levels by 52% and provides all-day hydration for a dewy, healthy-looking glow. The formula melts instantly into the skin, providing comfortable all-day wear and a sheer veil of coverage to diffuse imperfections and even skin tone, while visibly plumping and smoothing the complexion. It's formulated with 94% naturally derived ingredients, including hyaluronic acid to deeply hydrate and enhance the skin's radiance. It also is infused with plant-based squalane, meadow foam, seed oil, and a rambutan blend. The formula instantly makes skin look and feel smoother while providing continuous nourishment throughout the day. It doesn't contain alcohol, GMOs, parabens, phthalates, talc, triclosan, and mineral oil, and it doesn't also contain fragrance, which is very important to me. Now it suggests that you shake the bottle and pour a dime-sized amount onto fingertips. You warm the product in your hands. Now that's interesting. I didn't do that. It says start from the centre of your face around your nose and chin and forehead before blending to the outer perimeter of the face. Now that's really interesting. I hadn't actually spotted that it suggests that you do use your fingers. Then you're supposed to layer and build coverage as needed. But I don't think that really works. And certainly Tamara used a brush in her video, and I think it definitely worked better for me. Also, the product is vegan and cruelty free. So in terms of the wear test, I clocked in at about 4 hours, 8 hours and 10 hours. And it had worn off during the day a little bit. My skin was still very, very glowy because it was actually a very warm day. Even though I said summer's disappeared, it actually did come back for a bit yesterday, and it was very warm. So I think it lasted well. I mean, as Tamara said, it wore off gently. It didn't sort of suddenly disappear. Now, I've got a couple of caveats about the wear, but that is partly due to my skin being very difficult at the moment. I've suddenly acquired all these dry patches again, which had happily disappeared for a while, but they've suddenly come back around here, and now I've acquired 2 here as well. How delightful. I can't speak at the moment to whether that would happen if my skin was back to normal, but I am going to be doing a favourites video soon, and we will see whether this gets into it. Now, what do we think about how it compares to the so much cheaper Wet n Wild skin tint? Well, let me swatch them for you. I did a video a couple of months ago. Ooh, see, this comes out immediately. I did a video a couple of months ago where I talked about very light coverage foundations, and this is actually, I would say, a light medium, this skin tint by Wet n Wild, but it's something ridiculous like £4. It's incredibly cheap. And I think you can see that there's quite good coverage on that. And let's compare that to the Hourglass. I'll do it on the other hand. And actually, interestingly, I think this coverage does look quite good on my hand. It doesn't look too sheer, and yet I applied it with my finger. So I don't know how helpful this is being really, but I think it's a bit hard to tell on my hands, to be honest, but I think I would say that this is very slightly lighter coverage than this one, the Wet n Wild, but there's not much to choose between them. And as you can see, the shades are quite different. This one is probably more neutral, I would say, than this one is definitely warmer. I think shade matches can be quite difficult, and some YouTubers have commented that Hourglass generally leans a lot warmer, and it's more difficult if you are neutral or you are cooler to find a shade match to suit. So I do think it can be a bit hit and miss, and obviously when you're paying £49 it's quite tricky. But actually, when I bought the foundation last year, I did go into a store and I was given a couple of sample bottles because I didn't want to buy it straight off the bat because I'd never bought an Hourglass foundation before, and that's how I chose the 7.5. So I think if you can get hold of little samples, that might be the best way to go, because otherwise it's going to be a bit of a punt unless you're absolutely sure that you know what shade you are. Having said that, of course, I was a 7.5 in the foundation and I'm a 7 in the skin tint. So what's my verdict? Well, I think it's a lovely skin tint. I'm wearing it today, and let me come close so you can see. It definitely is glowy, there's no doubt about that. In fact, it's probably a little bit more glowy than the Wet n Wild, I'd say. In fact, I'd probably say it's not unlike the NARS Light Reflecting Foundation. Now, does it work for us nearly 70-year-old skins? Well, my skin is normal. In fact, I should have said that at the outset. My skin is normal, although it is a bit dry at the moment, but only in certain patches. But generally it's normal. It's not combination, really. It used to be combination, but I'd say it's probably normal now. It certainly isn't oily, and it's not dry, generally dry. So if your skin's oily, I don't know whether this would be right for you, but it will be interesting to see whether Risa, who I absolutely love of the channel, Risa Does Makeup, whether she reviews it. I don't think she has. I looked this morning and I couldn't see a review by her, and she has very oily skin and she's just turned 50, whereas Michelle Wong's skin is very dry. Tamara's is dry, I think, and Charlotte's is, I'm not sure what Charlotte's is actually, but of course she's only in her 30s, so it's a different kettle of fish for her. But I think if your skin is normal or leaning dry, this would be a nice, very natural, very light coverage for the summer months, I would say, or for when you don't really want to wear anything heavy. But if you've got to apply it with a brush, it does for me make it more of a foundation somehow. I don't know, it's just the way I feel about the sort of swiftness of applying something. If I'm applying it with my fingers, I tend to think of it as a quick kind of one and done, whereas if I'm applying it with a brush, it takes more time. But it gives a lovely glow. I like the fact that it's got hyaluronic acid in it. I've only powdered under my eyes and on my eyelids. I haven't powdered anywhere else. In the footage I took yesterday, I did powder a little bit more using the Ambient powder by Hourglass. But today I haven't done that, and I just thought I'd see how it looks. And I think it does look really nice. I'd probably want to powder it if I was going out though. So there you have it. That's my review of the Hourglass Hydrating, I'll get it right in a minute, the Hourglass Veil Hydrating Skin Tint. Why are the product names so long? So let me know in the comments below, have I tempted you to give it a go? It is a really expensive foundation, and I'm not suggesting that you rush out and buy it by any means. I just thought it would be an interesting skin tint to try, and it was a bit of a case of YouTube made me buy it, or YouTube made me review it even. And if you have enjoyed this video, I'd be so grateful if you'd give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I'm nearly at 2,000 subscribers and I'm inching my way there, so it would be so grateful to have a few more to get me to that next milestone. And if you can't get enough of Des, and who can, I have a monthly newsletter. The link's in the description box below this video to subscribe. And in that I talk about not just makeup, skincare and fashion, but I also talk about books, music, podcasts, and all the other bits and bobs that make us happy. And thank you again so much for watching. It means the absolute world to me, it really does. And if you want to watch more of me, more videos are coming up on the screen now. Thanks again so much for watching. I hope you're all doing really well, and I'll look forward to seeing you on my next video. Bye!